most important thing
Sorry.
a lot of things is basically being able to have support systems. I think a lot of women have to have a support system to really help them and for them to be able to and that and trust as is one of the like you mentioned Janet mentioned about the trust issue. Yeah, that's a huge thing in our community, trusting people to or your friends, and you don't trust anyone because you don't know who can set you up to be hurt, right? So it is scary, but I think support is one of the key elements to help women with the situation that they're facing in domestic violence and domestic abuse.
Yeah. Oh my. Um, so I think that most of this kind of stuff is one of the reasons why society says that women suffer from mental health issues more than men, although it is rising in the male community. It is more prevalent in the female community. But at the same time, I've always asked myself when it comes to women supporting women, why we don't feel that more in the Black community. I find it is easy, it is very, very easy to find women speaking out against each other, um, backlashing, tongue lashing, the disgraceful ways we address and talk about other women who are going through difficulties in finding themselves or leveling up. It's just atrocious. And I've I saw it when I was young, growing up in Jamaica, and I've seen it in churches here. Like there's no differentiation as to where or what organization you belong to. There is, even for women who are considered upper class women, or women who are cut from money and stuff, you listen to them talk about other women who are not doing as well off as they are. And I'm at a loss for words at times. Sometimes I will walk away, but I remember that it left me feeling that I would not ever trust a woman. I'd rather trust a man, even though at the end of the day I might be raped by this man or go through some difficulties by this man. The severity of what women were doing just felt a lot worse. So then, after I my went to York University and I studied, um, I think the course was called Women's Role in Women's Hands or something to that effect. And I was like, okay, well, maybe this might help me to understand women and why they are the way they are. In the course, they went into the history of women and a lot of the things that happened throughout history in different cultures across the board, different religious bases across the board. I was shocked at the amount of cruelty that's been done to women throughout the ages and still continues to this day. I mean, from little children, be it Jamaica or Africa, are going missing to go to some other tribe or country to be married and indoctrinated into something that is against her will, rendering her powerless against whatever is going on. We have sex slave issues that are more rampant today than they were when I was a child, right? And yet our community or our society says that it's more sophisticated and it's doing much better than when I was a child, right? Our finances have increased and our productivity. Now we have, heck, we're looking at leaving the dollar to go to crypto and Bitcoin for currency. So everything else is elevating, but the woman is left to not be elevated, or to be seen as less than continually, regardless of how far society supposedly lifts itself. So my question is, how are we going to change this? What is it going to take, or what is changing the dynamics of what is going on amongst women from all races? What is it going to, what should it look like? What should change look like? What should growth look like for us? I have heard men say that all the society does, all the North American society does, is teach women to belittle men, and to therefore try to raise children by herself when she cannot stand in the place of a man where a father should be. And therefore, that is why society is the way that it is today. I can't necessarily say that they are not correct in saying that parenting takes both parties, but at the same time, we have not been at this long enough for us to say that women can't do the job of raising a child by themselves. Because if what we're going to do is continue to perpetuate this abusive situation on all of our sides, then we're defeating the whole purpose of even having a mental institution, for that matter. Because eventually all of society will go mad, because the body cannot continue to handle all of this abusive, continuous treachery that we keep bringing onto ourselves. Hello?
Yeah. You gonna reply?
Did I make all of you fall asleep?
No.
I was so boring.
Well, don't we have men on the panel?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think, we do have a few men out here somewhere.
Is that Ramel that I see?
I don't know if he's still there.
Ramel, are you there? I guess is he mute?
I'm on mute. I'm here.
Oh,
you're here. Hi, Ramel.
Hi.
Nice.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I was having a problem you connecting me. I've been on a couple of times and it's been waiting to connect. I actually went outside, break a coconut, and I come back and I look at the computer and it was on. I was like, hey.
Good.
Well, I clearly need some lessons.
Well, that's okay. You're gonna have to get a professional to help you on it.
I need some lessons, Reggie. And you know what? Before I started,
I think I have somebody I could try and hook you up with. So
okay, good. That would be very helpful. I started the Facebook Live, and I can't tell you what is going on there. I gave up. I took that computer, even the YouTube thing. Like, I give up. I give up. I'm done.
No, there's no done. There's no done. You have to go through the process.
My lady friends are telling me that I'm doing really well, but I've seen what the young people can do.
So you gotta hire one of the young people to see what they can do.
I gotta find one first. They elude you when you want them for good purposes. When you don't want them for good purpose, they're all over the place. And then they smell the trap and say, I think she's up to something. Let me get out of here.
Yeah. Yeah, but you have to go through the process though. You have to find some way to do a course or something on it or get some guidance in order to get them. But I think Zoom is pretty easy after about 10, 15 meetings. You'll figure it out.
Yeah, I'm going to let you guys know it's going to kick us out soon. It hasn't given me that sign yet, but I know I'm not in my daughter's Zoom meeting, so it's going to kick us out. And just press back on the link as soon as the same link. Just
Hmm.
press it again and come back in.
Why was it taking long to enter in?
Because I was busy trying to figure out the Facebook and the YouTube stuff.
Okay.
And then I'm sorry, but I forgot to check as well. There's that.
All right. I didn't mean to change your subject. That's a different subject. You could continue on your topic.
Okay, so we were wondering if you men have something to contribute to what we were talking about, to the
Yeah,
value
there's a
of
lot that
women.
there's a lot we have to contribute. This thing is all crazy and messed up. It go back to the Willow Lynch
I think
system.
it goes further than that. I honestly,
Okay, so hang on. For us to in this discussion to go further than that may not be necessary, but we could start there as a point.
Mhm.
We could go back later on, but for now, what happened from the man perspective is the the woman been given the master. So whenever time she have a problem with the man, she don't have to work out anything with him anymore. She just call the master and he come and he arrest and the master arrest him. So now she left to take care, grow a man and her girl child, which is not possible. There's no way a woman know how to raise a man. It never happened and it will never happen. You could try. You can't have a man raising a woman. That just doesn't work. We could say it work, but it don't work. So
To
the
some,
problem actually stem
to
huh?
to some extent, there's some things that men and women can do without the other partner, but
Right, but it's not a good theory. So a son need a father.
yes,
A woman need a mother to the extreme. We
okay,
could play along with it, and you can have a woman raising a man, and she doesn't know how to raise a man. She thinks she has some idea how she can do it. So that's one of the problems. So the moment the man is gone, now he's broken because she have power. All she have to do is say 911, and I have seen this so many times in the society. So he give up a lot of time and he walk away because he's broken. Now if you look at the construct of that, now both party weren't brought up properly and things weren't together properly, so that's why they end up into difficulties like two head ruling one body, so the confusion and all those stuff comes into it. So the problem is deep. The problem go way back. You talk about growing up in Jamaica. One of the main thing a woman will tell her daughter, just go out with somebody that have something. Yes, it's right, but it's not right in the concept where she haven't train her or teach her how to be a proper wife and find the proper man that she could place she could be a guidance to that proper man. She haven't get the training. She just get this thought of I don't want a man that doesn't have anything or this or that, that kind of saying. So there's a lot of broken part in the whole thing. For me, where I see solution, it got to start back with the woman them sitting down because the man already gone. For you to get them in is one thing. So if you can get them in, then that would be a nice thing to get them in. But the women sit down and they have to start with their daughter and say, hey, listen, you're a young girl, and this is what I desire for you. You need to find yourself a superior man or a high value man or something, and I'm gonna put you in the position where you could do that. I don't want you to bring these little riffraff guy come into my to come to my house. And that's a dad job now to say, when a guy like that come around to say, hey, listen, he talked to her and say, that's not the kind of man I want to see you with. And maybe she ain't gonna like it, but it's very constructive if he's an example, because he can say, oh, don't bring that kind of guy home because he's a factory worker, but he's a factory worker. That doesn't work. He have to be a high value man also if he think that his daughter should deserve, a man with value. So there's a lot of broken pieces.
I'm going to ask you, Mr. Rommel, to please identify what you're meaning by high value.
Well, when I say high value, I mean a man that have his head onto his body and is respectable, and
But that can
prepare
that
he can
man is
prepare
also
and
a factory worker.
guide a family. Like for instance,
A
he should be in
factory worker, a factory worker, according to that definition, is also
yeah, yes,
a person.
could do it. No, I'm not saying nothing about a factory worker. All I'm saying is he can't be a factory worker and then tell his daughter don't go out with a factory worker. He's not an example. That's what I was saying about a
Okay.
factory worker. So the thing is, you're my queen and I adore you and I take you on and you're gonna come on to the program and we're gonna work this out together. If you get pregnant, why you should have to work till 7 months, 8 months, 9 months? Why as soon as the baby reach a year old you have to go back to work? If a man have a value, he will secure a place to say, hey, listen, this is what I want to get done. So you'll go back to work when the kid is 5 or 4, something reasonable, but not for you out there breaking your back to make ends meet and everything. He's supposed to be able to afford the situation that he's going into.
So, what happens in the case that the female in question um, can make her own money and she only wants to be home after the child is born for 6 months?
It makes sense, but it sounds very it's moving over to a masculine part of it. It's something that they have to reason out and decide on it. But for her to want to take on that kind of charge, it sounds very masculine from my point of view.
She's educated. So how can that be how is that has anything to do with your sexuality? She went to school, did the training, and she's more than capable, and she is making the money to be able to hire somebody to come in and look after the child rather than send the child out.
And there go the breaking again. Somebody looking after your child. You're the one supposed to be looking after your child. Like
Again,
for instance,
there,
hang on. Here's one of my examples. I have a 23-year-old son. He never have a babysitter
mhm.
because I'm not a babysitter. Wherever she is and I am, we have him. He's entwined with all of that, no matter what we're doing. Yes, a family member could hold on to him for a moment, but I don't see a babysitter raising my son.
Now, in the more wealthy families, right?
Yeah.
Where both mother and fathers got the money, they have a nanny come in and look after the child, and the child is still there. They're still accessible to that child,
And
right?
you see the result of those, Charles?
Yeah, yeah, they're a bunch of psychopaths.
Have you seen the result of those?
They're not all psychopaths, guys.
Oh, but the majority,
You-
look at who was running our organizations and our companies, Janet. They're all psychos. All of them are psychos.
All
Why?
right, host.
Because of
All right, host.
misconduct.
I would love you. I would love you to get someone else to participate in what you're saying now.
Surrender. Hello.
Yes,
Are you even listening? Are you falling asleep?
I was listening. I am listening.
Okay.
So somebody said psychopath and somebody said no. So we would like your view on that result.
Yes, would you consider that children who are from wealthy homes with both parents working and they have a nanny coming and going in their lives or whatever, mostly in their lives than gone, but would you say those children are typically psychopaths? You're making her laugh.
No,
Is
no.
that a question for everybody or? just
Yes,
one
for
person?
everybody, please
Of
help.
course, of course the children are messed up. They're totally messed up.
Mm.
You
I'm
know,
not
why
saying
would
all
you-
of them are, just a lot of them, too many of them are, because the parents are not there to monitor what this person is teaching their children.
All right, I'm
Not
going to
there.
put myself out there because you guys are being wicked. Okay,
No, mother and father, that is your responsibility. Even if you have somebody taking care of your child, you have to be there to monitor what is going on with your child and what's happening it's because I worked in with children. We saw that happening. We could predict that some of these kids are crazy. They were, and look, I'm not saying it to be funny. I'm just saying it that the problems that we're seeing now, even with our organizations and those big companies, the studies show that a lot of them, more than half of them are psychopaths, or they have those tendencies. But when you look at their background and how they were raised, you see these same problems where parents are not raising their children, and they have strangers who they claim that they went and did studies on to find out how their background, but they still don't, they're not there to monitor what these people are actually teaching and their children every single day. And they turn out crazy. And we could always predict those children.
1 second.
Never fails.
Go ahead, Surrender.
Yeah, well, what if they find the good ones? What if they find a caregiver or a nanny that is teaching the kids good values, but only to find out them as a parent, they don't have good values. They don't even have time for their children. And they're not putting like more effort on learning the values that the nanny is bringing to the house, and then now the children won't respect it because they're not seeing their parents do it. So I feel like this whole society that we're living in right now, it's kind of like crazy, and it's scary for our children because let's take a child who is coming out from it's a child who was raised by their parents and good values and all that. And what happens when they meet up? What happens when they meet up in school? That's where bullying comes from. That's where now they grow up to be fathers or to be fathers as well. So the people that they're married to, it gets to the violence and all that we're talking about right now. So like, who's wrong? Well, where does it start? Where does it end now?
But the same dynamics is played out amongst working families, the working class families. They're gone 24/7. They're lucky if they're able to stay home on weekends instead of having to work, right? And they still have to drop their children off. The nanny's not coming in the house to look after those children. They get dropped off at daycare. Right. So I'm a single mom. Raised 3 children. The last one was the boy, and the girls always complained that I spoiled him. I disagreed.
Yes, yes, because you don't know how to raise a man. Yes, because you don't know how to raise a man.
I strongly disagree,
I like the
Romel.
point.
Strongly
That guy
disagree.
is raised.
Okay. Now, so
I strongly agree. Thank you.
I'm not taking away your daughters from you. You don't know how to raise a man. That's my argument.
Strongly agree with you, Romel. Thank
A
you.
man is a man.
did you hear that, Romel?
Romel, I strongly agree with you. Thank you.
Me too.
Me 3.
Well, I think there needs to be a balance,
Boy
and when it
turned out
comes to
very good.
one should take
Wouldn't
the
you say
lead.
that, Auntie Geraldine?
Huh?
Wouldn't you say that my boy turned out very good?
Yes, he's a good boy.
Okay,
Hmm.
so let me tell you.
But I don't know, because you know my own background.
Yes, but
I see my brothers not, I see my mother raised two lovely boys, but
Mhm.
I also see where this lacking with the male from not being raised by their own father.
Yeah.
It's indelible. It's part of who they are, and it's very sad, and it makes them sad that they never had that.
Just say something.
It's something missing for them,
Okay,
and
go
I
ahead.
and I see it also, but they feel it. Don't just see it, they feel it. They experience it every day. It's kind of like if you didn't have a mother, you would feel the loss of that mother. They feel the loss of that father. They feel it. It
Yeah.
and it's not something that is easy for them to talk about, but every so often when we get into these deep conversations, they do acknowledge that yes, my mom was a great mother, and yes, she did a great job raising me, but inside I know that my father is missing.
Something. Mm.
Yeah, that's how I feel about my
Well,
mom. Go ahead, Surrender.
that comes to the very first point. I don't know which lady said about the domestic violence.
Mhm.
What she's saying now, it connects exactly what is happening in South Africa. I'm from South Africa.
Mhm.
The violence there, it's just climbing up. And why? It is because now, whenever you guys are talking, it just reminded me that most of South African kids are raised by single parents. I could say 90% of South African kids are raised by single parents. And that is where you find that there are no values, no respect. There's all teenage pregnancies, there's violence, kids are on the streets, on the road, and then that grows up to whenever they grow up and then now they have their own families, there's still no respect, and then they're gonna turn out all that frustration to their wives, and then all raping small babies and all that. So all this whole crazy thing that is happening in this world, it also begins at home. It started from
We're
home.
losing you there.
Sorry,
Can't hear her.
I picked up the phone. It's my
I don't
fault.
know. Yeah, I have.
Can't hear you. We lost you. Come back.
One second, Surrender. Joanne, Joan, I sent you. If you clicked your, let me try this again. I'm sending you an invite for you to come up. Just accept it, and you can come up at the top so you can participate in the conversation. Okay. I'm not sure if she's hearing me, but okay, go ahead, Serena. Sorry.
Yeah, so just to say, I don't know what's the name of the guy. Sorry, I didn't get your name. Like when
Romel.
he's saying
His
that
name is
yes-
Romel.
Oh, Romel. He is kind of like right. Remember, even Tupac says you can't raise a man. A man needs a man. There are some certain values that I see even right here with my husband when he's with the kids. They fear more him than me. And I was raised by a single parent, so I am even learning even more. Whenever there's something that happens and they're scared, I step back and then let him do the whole maybe punishment or the coaching and all that. And then I look back and I say, this is one kind of a value that I missed. I didn't get all that because I was raised by a single parent. So in this whole thing, it is very important. If our society, I don't know, I know it's not always possible. It's not always, all families are not always together, but if you could try that, I don't know. I don't know how to change it because the only way to change it, it begins at home. So, what is the change? How can we change? How can we make our children grow up in a better place? How can we impact those values on our men and women that are going to grow up one day to be the best generation?
Okay,
Or like
go ahead, Romel. I'm sorry. Welcome, Joanne.
the thing is, the thing is, we start out, and one of the mistake I see that when we start out is that we're inexperienced,
Mhm.
and together we create something, and from the beginning it wasn't right. So that's where a part of the problem is, because a girl 24 or 30, she's gonna say to me, oh, my baby father is this or my baby father is that. I'm like, the responsibility is on both of you. You chose him. So why you saying this or saying that about him now? Because you're grown up? No, or he's saying this or that about her. And I'm like, it's a part of your responsibility also, but you're inexperienced. Why are you talking all these things about her? You chose her. So it's not like it's one of you choose. Both of you have an agreement, but you're inexperienced. So the background work is really to prepare our young one. Like for instance, any one of you, I'm a 50-year-old man, and any one of you have a daughter. Daughter is 25, 30, 35, whatever the case may be. I have to be in a good position for you to say, yes, I accept you to have my daughter. If I'm not in a good position, if I'm a guy who have 3, 4 kids and have this baby mother, that baby mother, you're gonna say to your daughter, hey, listen, this is not the right situation for you. And if she disobey you, she's gonna pay because she's inexperienced, right? So it's a matter of the guidance, because if a good father is around that girl, I can't just walk into her life because her dad gonna be there to safeguard her and saying she's gonna look at her and say, listen, that guy is something else. Like you can't go with a guy like that. And he will reason with her and she will listen to him because the male and the female energy entwine with a father and a daughter. And if she loves him and they love each other and they have this companionship together, she will listen because this man, her father, know the nature of the man who's trying to get to her. So that's what it takes. It takes now our grandparents and our great grandparents in order to put in the work so you could develop great young men and great young women so they can make good decisions from the beginning. Because a lot of relationships that I see nowadays, and I'm even speaking for myself, you start them out young and you make a lot of mistakes. You have no experience in how to choose a man or a woman.
Ah,
So that's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah.
some of us parents are still learning how to choose a man or a woman. So we demote people for our children, right?
They're not an example.
That
They're not an example. They didn't set a good example. They want to tell you now, don't
I
do this,
totally
don't
agree
do
with
that.
that one because I always say that there's the generational curse has to break. That's the way it is. We've had a lot of generational curses upon us, and somewhere down the line, those curses have to be broken.
Yeah.
Curses have to be broken because um, awareness and education will help us to break those curses. And I think what has to happen, we as women, there's got to be the same way everybody's talking about this situation right now with race.
Mhm.
That especially in the U.S. right? Whereas we have to talk about race.
Mhm.
We have to talk about the atrocities that was done to black people in the U.S., predominantly in the U.S.,
And
Canada as well,
and
right now. Because if you look at this right now, the indigenous people are going to start talking about what was done to them.
yes.
We have to have a dialogue. We have a problem in our community. Our community is broken. Okay? We have too much problems in our community. We have domestic violence. We have broken relationships, which is causing broken homes, which our children are bearing the brunt of what happened with the elders going forward. We have, okay, broken marriages. We have our children in prison, black and black crime, okay? And all of this is stemming from the generational curse. And all of it is stemming from the fact that we have not been speaking about it. Nobody wants to deal with it because if someone has a better life and because some black folks, they have a beautiful home, they got through. It's like you're going through the door, they got out the door, and you're still in the door. They're fine. I don't want to deal with that. That's none of my business.
They ain't fine.
We can't be doing that.
Fine. You go spend a night in their house, honey. They ain't fine.
But no. They're still not going to talk about it. It's none of my business. Those boys, they're killing each other. Black and black crime. Black and black crime affects all of us. Domestic violence affects all of us because look at it this way. I always say to people, I was working on Bay Street, okay, corporate. And I always say, when black boys end up killing themselves, I get looked at as well. Those people are, they don't say, oh, the black boys are doing it and Jillian's coming to work dressed nicely every day. Those people are causing problems. Those people are causing problems, okay? So the problem is right now, what we have to do, we have to talk. Men have to come forward as well. We have to have dialogue with men. We're having too much dialogue with women. And it's not working. We need to have the men, we need to have dialogue, education, and awareness. The men have to bear the brunt of this situation as well. They have to be held accountable because they're the ones that are coming into relationships. Sometimes they don't even have a clue what they want.
Okay, miss. You stop there now. You must remember in the 90s, they took the man in Ontario out of the family and they supported the woman. They discarded with him. So hang on a second.
Yeah,
so now those 20, 30-year-olds, 35-year-olds that you have roaming the street, they didn't have any dad.
Right.
You have to raise them by yourself, and that's the result of that.
I'll take this one for you. Okay, Mr. Romel, I'm gonna break it down for you. The country can get up and set up whatever laws and rules it wants to, but when you want to have sex and make a baby, you go to a man to have sex and make the baby with, right? Because as far as I know, to this day, homosexual couples cannot produce babies on their own. They got to go to the opposite sex to get that thing happening, or they have to adopt. Okay, so let me not belittle this conversation by trying to cover for the LGBTQ and how they live, right? When I had my son with his father, I was not married to him, but we were living together, right? When the relationship ended and I decided to stay by myself, I could have done what most women do in the sense of I take your ass to court, I fight you for support, and you cannot see my child because you are worthless and you this and you that and whatnot. Okay? I did not.
You chose him, right?
I had my.
Think with that. You chose him, right?
Hold on. I had my father and my uncles, and if I'm not correct, even my brother said to me, take this man to court, Janet. You're not doing him any favors by not taking him to court. Now, I was married before to the girl's father, and I took that fellow to court, and I knew exactly how the system works when you take a brother to court. So I was not going to take a second man back to court. What I did instead is I had to find myself fighting him to go to the school, to pay some interest in his son, take the time, when you get a little time off work in the evening, or they say they are going to have, if you want to know when the next parent-teachers meeting is, I do not have any rules sitting at the school or any letters sitting on the school that says you cannot call and inquire about your son. I am not going to go through and mother you by sending you when to go, when the parent-teachers meetings are. You be a man, call the school and find out for yourself. Did he do it? No. The other thing I had to do on a regular basis was call him to let him know that he needs to come and pick up his son. And to spend some
I got a question. I know, I see where you're going, but
and to spend some quality time with his son. This is a woman talking to a man.
Yeah, but here's my question.
Hold on.
You got to think with what I'm asking you.
What's the question you want to ask?
What I'm asking you, did you choose him?
What does one thing have to do with the other? When you choose a
That's the person you
hold
choose.
on, Mel, hold on.
That's the
When,
credibility.
when you
That's
choose
the credibility you choose.
when you choose a person to bed or to marry to, you only know what the person tells you about themselves. You only see as far as that person wants you to see about themselves, right? We're told to put our best foot forward, right? So during those points and times in my life, I was not mature enough, or my spiritual acuteness was not developed enough. So there was no discernment, so to speak, to know if this man was telling the truth or not, right? I started seeing red flags after it was already too late. When I was done pregnant already,
Oh, so you
I
were
now
inexperienced then.
started to see that I have to be already giving him advice about how to operate with the sons he already has, right? Because now I'm starting to see things that I wasn't seeing before when we were just dating, right? Pardon me? Like when we were just dating, those things were not showing themselves up. So we have a way, both men and women, of covering up certain things about ourselves that we don't want other people to see, because we know if they start seeing them, they're going to have something to say, and we might not want we don't want to play into reacting to that, right? We want to show up better than what we are. Mr. Romel. So in a lot of cases, although we choose these people to stay with, when they start showing us the signs that are dangerous, it's already too late,
Mhm.
right? So the
Agree.
question
And
is,
whose
now,
and
what
whose
are we?
responsibilities and who
Go ahead.
and whose responsibility is it now? We
It's
both chose wrong. Whose responsibility?
it is still both our choices. It is still both our responsibilities. I mean, okay, it doesn't become one person's responsibility and not the other, especially when a child is involved, right?
Right.
You knowing that you have flaws in how you parent, what you need to do as a brother or as a sister is be completely forthcoming and righteous with the person that you have that child with, and say, listen, you see, when it comes to going to the schools and whatnot, that's not me, Bridget. That's got to be you. But you see, when it comes to going shopping with this child, I will take this child and go shopping. That my son's father was really good at. In fact, there were times I would have to call him and say, no, you cannot buy him $150 pair of running shoes because he's going to wreck it in 2 weeks. If you follow me, right? So understanding a person's strength and understanding a person's flaws is the responsibility of the person to make sure that the parent that he has knows these things about himself, that he or she is not hiding these character flaws or character.
I do understand what you're saying. I think we're going mostly off point right now, because the situation I was trying to address is the result of a young man, which Julian was talking about, black crime. Black crime is when kids like those become loose. And I'm not saying all of them.
They
So maybe a percentage of them become loose. That's where we have the black and black.
Because we as parents are not accepting our responsibilities of what we are good at and what we're not good at. Because if I have a child with you, Romel, and you are not good at sports, you have no interest in sports, and this child loves sports and would love for you to go to come show up at his sports, and you never show
Get
up.
them a coach.
You never show up, right? That is what the child wants. He don't want a coach. He already have a coach. The school makes sure that he have a coach, right? But you want to see him, daddy. Show up on one time. Okay, fine. You're not into it. You can then turn to your partner, your girlfriend or your wife, and say, listen, my son is really good at this and I hate this kind of thing. You want to come with me? And you make sure that you have a little crew and you show up for your kid, even
They
though
need to
you
compromise.
make the sacrifice to be there.
Compromise.
Yes.
Yes.
Right. And you show up, and that makes him feel a little better about himself. He can now say, okay, daddy don't like it, but at least him come for me. When
All right.
you remember second, you remember
not to cut you.
You remember that statement she made about a mother can't raise a son, right?
It's not her duty to do that.
Okay, I understand what you're trying to say. I'm just going to give you an example. When and in the same category that I'm talking about, understand this one thing. When it comes to my son, he used to do a lot of sport things that we used to call him like a white black boy, right? Jay was like really good at skateboarding. He still is. And he'd say to me, Mommy, I want to go skateboarding. And I bought him the skateboard, Romel. I bought him the skateboard knowing full well that I would not be able to watch this child practice his tricks on his skateboard because mom had an issue, a big issue with falling, right? And for me to watch my son fall, that's like, my heart is going to break in two. I can't do it, right? So I buy him the skateboard. I drive him to the the skating rink. And I stayed in my car with a book and my head is down in my book. I said, when you want me to watch something that you've done and you know you're good at it, you can come let me know. But I am not watching him. And he understood that. But at least I was there. When he did a trick, he come and when he perfected his trick, he'd come and say, okay, mommy, you can watch me now. And I'd watch him, right?
All right.
It's that understanding with your children, that being straight with them. I'm not good at this.
I hear what you're saying, and I understand that side of the story. My thing is simple this. I'm not disagreeing with what's happening there. My point is, you need 2 units to make this thing work.
Well, that is why God allowed.
And you're saying that there wasn't another unit. So you're saying what I'm saying.
I'm teasing.
You need the other side of the unit.
I left my mother when I was 12 years old to come to this country. I am in my 50s now, and I still go, I want my mama.
Right. You need 2 units. So I hope you can agree with what I'm saying. You need 2 units. One part of it doesn't work. So maybe we need somebody now to
it takes 2
we need somebody to get in and say what they have to say, what they think, because I think we're a little off here.
John, is there anything you'd like to add to this conversation as a single mother?
I don't even know if I should call myself a single mother.
Because?
I certainly am not married to my children's father, but the children are with their father. Because I am not the nurturer. When we were together, he was the one who would get up in the nights because I was on like a 9 to 5. He was self-employed, and I'm very strict on time. So I'd have to leave home at a certain time, and he takes them to school. They were not in public school at the time, but he was the one who did the nurturing. When they're babies, he's the one who gets up in the night to make tea and to put them back to bed, because I ain't shifting because I'm tired, and he takes care of that. So, and I heard you mention about the family court situation.
Mm-hmm.
At one point, I was being advised to take him to the family court, but I'm thinking the public wasn't involved in it when I was mating or courting. See where it was necessary to get the government or the public in it. Mm-hmm. But I was the one who paid the school fee, made sure that their books were purchased when it's time for school and that sort of thing. So and because I grew up without my father, I didn't want my children to grow up without their father, especially the girl. And I'm not good at single parenting. And that was made clear even before we started having children. I am zero at single parenting. So
Very good.
even though they spend time with me, yes, but they live with the father. And I've seen women who have raised boys. Some very strong women raise boys. I don't know how they do it. I lift my hat, but I'm not good at single parenting, so I don't even try to attempt it. And I was blessed to have a father. They were blessed to have a father who was that nurturing. Wow.
Well done. Well done. Very, very good.
Yeah.
Geraldine,
Yeah.
would you like to chip in at this point?
Well, I've seen a lot of kids grow up with mother and father. I think it has to do with intention. Like, what kind of parent or what kind of spouse do you want to be? Because these parents are total losers. And you see it on their children to this day, even on their grandchildren. So I think that you can have a mother and a father in a house, but if they don't agree to move together to raise a strong family, you're going to see again that sometimes the mother who raises her children on her own is better. But it's not something that happens all the time. So sometimes I think we get thrown off by these occurrences. But mother and father does not always guarantee strong families. Like I said with the cycle thing, it's always about intention of these parents. Like, what do you want for yourselves as a couple? And what do you want for your children? What kind of family do you want to raise? Because if you don't ask yourself those questions and seek a way to answer them in a way that's beneficial for your family, then you're going to end up with looking at a mother and a father and their children and their grandchildren and their great grandchildren. And you keep saying to them, hello, how is it that you don't get this? How is it that you keep getting lost in this? And you can go back 3-4 generations and you go, okay, I see this. You see these patterns. So I think it comes back to intention. What do you intend for your child? What do you intend for this person that you're having this child with? What do you want to accomplish? Because if you don't get to that, then it's like raising weeds. Who raise weeds? They just show up. You don't cultivate weeds. You cultivate plants. You cultivate flowers. And I grew up in an environment where I see a lot of couples, even in my own family, that they got married and do all of that stuff, but then they fail to raise a good, strong family. And their children are suffering for that to this day. They're on to great grandchildren now, and you still see, geez, what's it going to take another 3-4 generations for you to get this? So it's intention. It has to do with intention.
Yes. Can I say something?
Go ahead, Joanne.
All right. What he's saying is perfectly right, because both parents will have to agree on how they're going to discipline the children or to grow the children, and they have to agree, because it is not good for the child or children to see discrepancy in parenting, one side taking one side and the other. And quite interestingly, I'm always saying I'm not good at single parenting. And I remember somebody saying to me, he doesn't understand why people say that, because when it's single parenting, it should be better parenting, because there is nobody to disagree with what you're saying.
Not necessarily true, because single
Yeah.
parents do make mistakes. Just like couples make mistakes, single parents make even more mistakes many times. Um, I was one of the fortunate single parents because I got some training before that I applied, even though I was sick while being a single parent. There were things that I knew to apply. Like, for instance, the concept that you have open communications with your children where they are rewarded for being completely honest with you, right? So honesty becomes the primary goal of the conversation. So they come home from school, they've had their breakfast, their dinner and whatnot. And before bedtime, you find a nice 5-10 minutes to sit down where they can tell you anything that they want to tell you that's on their mind. As time goes on, we couldn't keep up that everyday type of thing. So we moved it to once a week. So once a week, they could tell me anything from whether it is the disciplining that maybe I disciplined them for something that they felt they shouldn't have been disciplined for. They get to express all of that at that point of time when we sit down to have that family meeting. And it is not the parents' time to be defensive. It is your time to sit down and learn from your child the things that you did well and the things that you need to work on, right? And if there's something that you need to say, I am sorry for as a parent, that is the time you sit down with your child and you listen to everything that they've had to say. You commend them for doing a good job and being honest, and you make your apologize. You apologize, you make amends, right? And you redirect where redirecting needs to be done. But at the same time, that is a time where you're developing a certain amount of trust in your relationship as a parent with your child. So that is not the time that you bring up, oh, I'm going to confiscate this and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that because you said you did X, Y, and Z. No, you have to be, you have to follow through on the promises made in having these conversations. And when it is time for you to have, when the child develops this trust with you and they are in trouble, whether they are right or wrong, they find it much easier to come home to you and say to you, you know what, I did X, Y, and Z to so and so. Why would you have done something like that? Because X, Y, and Z. And you get a better understanding. So you are able to then, have an understanding of what kind of mindset your child has, what kind of temperament they're going with, right? And you can help correct some of that temperament, because some of the temperaments that a lot of us Black people have, it stems around anger, right? And when we don't want to accept the fact that we are angry at ourselves or at our parents, we put it onto our children. We say our children does X, Y, and Z like so and so, and that so and so happens to be somebody that you are very angry at, right? And so then you start to mistreat this child and not be as attentive or careful to the child as that child deserves, right? So there's a lot of little tweaking that we can do within the family dynamics that would answer to, as Jillian called it, the curse that still needs to be broken. But we have, as parents, we have to be honest with ourselves and make room for our children to be equally honest with us. And I think just starting there would, instead of kicking your child out, for God's sakes, it's one of the things that I'm still battling with understanding, is how, as a parent who says that you're running a God-fearing family and your house is the house, I run the house of Joshua, and your child is sitting outside in a shelter because your child is gay, or because your child got somebody pregnant. To me, Joshua would have taken his child, sit his child down and done whatever he needed to do to make sure that his child had all the tools needed before that child ever had to leave the house, regardless of the personality that that child has developed. Because you do not, no matter how well discerning and how spiritually inclined you are, you do not have the power over God to decide how your child is going to come through life, right? There's certain things, no matter how you teach and what you preach and what examples or how perfect a parent you think you are, there's certain things that God has placed inside a child to bring that child through whatever that child needs to be brought through, because everything is supposed to be to God's honor and God's glory, not to ours. But we always forget that, right? And then that pride thing comes up large, and we decide that, well, if you're going to behave this way, you're not going to stay in this house and disgrace me. Why is it your disgrace? Isn't this about the child's learning? Isn't this about your guidance? So when you kick him out and he goes to the shelter, when he gets to the shelter, the people at the shelter now know who you are, what denomination you belong to, what kind of person you're supposed to be, plus a whole heap more from what this child is going to tell you. Now, if you had sat down with this child before you kick them out and have a discussion with them, and they're able to truthfully tell you the things that's breaking their heart about your parenting, then you have some kind of dialogue and things that you can work on, and understanding that your house of Joshua's house, how Joshua's house is steadily falling apart, because there are things that you never accepted about yourselves. There are certain lies that you've perpetrated onto your family, and the family can see it because it's showing up in other areas of your life that only your family can see. Because when you go out to church or you go out to work, you're not doing these things in the public's eye. But when you're at home, where you feel that you're free and you can get away with certain things, you're not going to get away with it, because your children and your spouse is picking up on the hypocrisy. So there's a lot of things that we need to fix. The working on self is a must, and it's time that we got real on the subject of fixing ourselves.
Totally agree with that one.
Yes, Miss Jillian, it's your turn.
I totally agree with that one, because like I said before, it's not one thing, there's a lot of things. And it's a domino effect, because like I brought up all the different issues in our community, the brokenness. So, the relationship issue, the domestic violence, the domestic abuse, the black on black crime, our children, are being neglected. There are a lot of children are in foster care. They're all over the place, right? And a lot of it, and then there it is, our men and women just they don't get along. And I think one of the problem that again and again, because we don't talk to each other, we talk at each other, we're not listening. And I think when we just meet someone, it's almost like there's times that I think, so many things are happening to us as a people. So when woman meets man or man meets woman, there's hardly any communication going on, you know? Maybe it's like, oh my God, I'm so happy to meet a guy, but come on here. You've got to know about this guy. Like, maybe this guy might, there's a lot of men out there that they're married and their marriages are being broken, and they go outside of the marriage and they're seeking who knows whatever they want out there. What are they seeking? You know what I mean? So they're trying to work on your marriage, but marriages today, no one is talking to each other to find out what's really happening, what's going on. They're talking at each other or over each other, yelling and screaming. And in the end, he bursts out, goes somewhere else, starts drinking, maybe doing drugs, hanging out with friends, not coming home. And then one thing leads to another. There's a lot of women out there nowadays. There's a lot of single women. There's women you know, and that's where it all starts because, you know, the house is not a home. Your house have to be a home. You know, let's go with Luther Vandross, right? A house is not a home. So
All right,
you want
all
that
right,
house
all
to
right,
be a
Jillian.
home. Come on, people. Right? So you don't want to go home. You don't want to go to a house. You want to go to a home. You know what I mean? And you're not, and you know, and I've heard stories because it has happened to friends of mine that their house they're going to houses, they're not going to homes, and then they stray like dogs. You know, dogs will stray, right? You don't see too many stray dogs here, but you see them in the Caribbean, right? They stray, and this is what is happening. There's a breakdown. There's too much going on in our community, and I think communication, education, awareness. We've got to talk. We've got to talk. We've got to start a dialogue. We've got to come together. We've got to have maybe a symposium with men and women, you know, but it's got to be huge. Let's get our community together. Let's all have a big, you know, who knows? Spend a couple hours and let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. We need
Romel,
to.
Okay, okay, Jillian. I need to butt in there a second. I
Romel,
Yeah.
totally agree with everything.
what causes men to stray?
I,
Ask Romel.
I don't want to get into
See, I
that
love this. We
subject
have a
right
man.
now.
Ask
Jillian,
Romel.
Jillian, I totally agree with what you're saying, and I want the host to take note of this. And there should be a meeting on communication because obviously a lot of us doesn't have any clue about what communication is. So that
Right
should
on.
be a subject within itself. Talking over each other and doing this and doing that.
Yelling in the screen.
Right. So we do have a problem there. So that should be a subject. So I would like to invite anyone else who want to have something to say because basically this is about the people who are on the line and the people who are there listening, what they're concerned, what is it they want to know, and how they want to move forward in a lot of things because I see there's a lot of personal things are coming out, but we need to hear from them because you're building a program, and this is what we want to do. You want to build a program where you could get more men on the line, and you could get more
Yeah.
women, and you could develop a subject, and you could build.
That's what I was.
So in order to do that, we got to communicate
I would like to
properly
suggest
and reasonably. So
next,
let's find out who want to contribute to what's going on.
that next week we invite some men. I'm going to invite a couple men, and you invite
Yeah,
a
we need
couple
that.
men that you know, because one of the things that we have not gotten to on this talk is to dive into a little deeper study about our sexuality as females. And I don't think right by right we should be having this conversation, the sexuality conversation, without the brothers.
Right.
Okay, so we have gone well over time.
Well, because the topic is something that we need. You see, because we're doing this,
Well,
the
interesting.
topic is needed. This is needed. What we're doing right now, it's so needed, right? Because we touched on a lot of issues as we were here tonight. We talked about the domestic abuse. I brought those statistics, which I pulled it up today, and then right.
1 in 4.
1 in 4 in Jamaica. Look at what's going on in my country, South Africa, that I brought up, which is so funny because I just picked South Africa, and I think the lady on the panel, what's her name?
Surrender.
She mentioned what is happening in South Africa. So I was right on with South Africa. So I love to do. I love doing research, right? So, but again and again, like I said, the
So my
dialogue.
point is what
Dream is
what does the guest have
happening.
what does the guest has to say?
What's that?
What
Oh,
does the
Romel,
guest
you
on the
weren't
line
on,
have to
right?
say?
Okay,
Yes,
what is your?
we have to engage them. We have to engage them
They,
in
they
the
are
conversation.
Yeah.
they were intently listening. Surrender, is there anything else you'd like to say?
Yeah.
No, guys. I was just actually busy now. The baby is up, so he needs my attention. Yeah,
Okay.
this is another topic that I would like. I don't know, maybe next week. again on it?
Yes, next week we'll be dealing, we're going to have a few more men on next week, so
Yeah, we gotta get them in.
from the brothers, and we're going to talk a lot about sex next week. So Surrender and Joanne, I'd love for you guys to invite your partners if they are available to join us next week. Who on here has partners? Romel, please bring your partner next week and a couple friends.
I don't know if I can get mine on.
Hang on.
Julian,
Here's my question.
next week. I know
Here's my question.
Julian and I don't have partners, so we won't be bringing anybody.
You want to hear my question?
Yes, go ahead.
Which one?
All of them. Bring all of them. Yes. Yeah.
No. I can bring Mr. A, but I don't know if he's gonna come. He's big on stuff like this. Huge.
And
He's
Carlo.
huge on- Huh?
Carlo. I didn't hear anything from Carlo. I don't know if he's probably not able to. We're only able to listen in.
I'll tell you. You know what my dream is? My dream is to see a man and woman symposium, huge. And what it is to have it in a big hall. I mean, we can't do it now.
I
And
was
they have and we just have a whole couple days of, seminars and workshops, because we need to
probably
do
work out
something like this so
July.
that we can start to start the healing process. Okay?
I think we can do something up by the office for the end of July.
What's that?
I think we can plan a little something for the end of July up by the office.
I know, but when I'm talking about something like this, I'm talking about something like this well into next year, where we can do, we're doing all this Zoom stuff. I'm talking about hopefully next year when we are able to sort of come together in a room, and because we've got to do this. We've got to start saying to ourselves, our men and women have to come together and they have to get along. We have to learn how to get along. It's almost like we've got to start all over again. Our Black men, Black women have to start all over again. We've lost something along the way. We've got to come together and start all over again. Be able to talk to each other, be able to get along, so that we can start having healthy relationships for the next generations to come, for the future generations. So they have to see that love within our community. They don't see it. I mean, it took my father's in the hospital right now, right? And he's now, when we say love you, Dad, it's like he forces himself to say love you too, but we keep saying it. Love you, Dad, love you, Dad, love you, Dad. Love you, Dad. Say it, answer us. I love you. They don't say it.
You understand that it's part of, till it becomes part of him.
Yeah, but we force it out of him. He's saying it, and so this is the thing. So that love got to come together. We've got to learn to love each other as friends, as partners, in relationships. We've got to love each other, right? And the children need to see that. The children need to see that love. That loving couples. We don't need these baby mama dramas. We need loving couples, loving people.
We got a lot of work to do.
A lot of work, but we're ready to do it. Come on. We've had 2 years. We've been sitting down with this pandemic. So let's get up and start
We got to take it one step at a time.
Hey?
We got to take it one step at a time. Let's build a program.
It starts with healing the community, right? You got to healing time. Right. Okay. So that's it for me.
Geraldine, are you still there?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have anything to chime in? We're about to close out just now.
No, I'm good.
You're good. Romel?
The subject of communication is very important to me, because this is one of the struggles that I have over and over and over.
Next week we'll
all around. We don't have much understanding of ourselves, so we don't even know what we do. We just bubble out everything. You know, so it's something that we should look into, and maybe we could start there. If we could start talking, which we're doing, and doing it in a proper way, then that's all I have to say. Communication right now is a key. It's very important.
That it is. That it is.
Yeah.
And the other component of that, communicating one, but understanding
Mhm,
is another.
mhm.
Well,
You know, if we look at the Bible, you hear talk about Solomon, and when they asked him what what he wants, what he want was wisdom and understanding.
Mhm.
Because I could say whatever I want to say, but if you're not paying attention or you're not interested in what I'm saying, then my communication doesn't get across to you. So whatever you're saying or whatever you're delivering, you should understand what you're doing and hope that, or know that whatever you're delivering will receive whoever you're sending it to.
Mhm.
Because if not, you're just throwing your your pearls them to pigs, or whatever, however they put it. So
Right.
communication is key.
Okay. Yeah.
That's my 2 cents.
okay. Surrender. Joanne, I just wanted to know you guys have your last words you want to speak.
Right. Well, guess what? I think I didn't understand it kind of late to the meeting, so I will withhold comment.
No, go ahead and make your comment.
No, that's okay. I don't think I understand the topic.
Okay. The topic, we're closing out, so there isn't a topic. So I'm just saying, is there any last comment that you'd want to make? The discussion tonight has been about the breaking of the Black woman and her family, which is why we were discussing so much about single parenting, which has been part of the whole psychology of slavery, was to separate the men from the women. So she's on her own, so that she would raise children that were more susceptible to what the language that they wanted us to have on their terms. And we're still continuing those dynamics in our family lives today.
Okay. All right. That's your conversation, listening mainly. And I hope I'll be able to better contribute. I look for your topics so that I'll be able to do some research and contribute further to the conversation. And by the way, I don't have a partner.
Okay, all right. I stand corrected. Okay. Okay. Surrender, did you have any last words for us?
Like I said, I would like you guys to go more deep into this because I'm learning a lot. I'm a young mommy. I'm raising 3 boys with my husband, who's always not at home. So I'm a mom and a dad whenever he's not at home. But anyway, yeah, I like what, I don't know who said it, was it Renelle, what said, the last thing she said, the I love you dad thing, that you have to keep on saying it, I love you dad, until you say yeah. It's something that I feel like most men are not open up into showing love. That's what is happening around my house. It's something that maybe you grew up with parents where they were not too open into love, teaching them love and all that. So every time when I was trying to give him a patty keys or tell him I love him, it feels kind of like he feels weird about it, or it's something that he doesn't want to do it in front of the kids. So yeah, I think that would be topic of another day.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I'm not understanding that part.
All right. So okay.
So yeah.
All right. Thank you guys very much for showing up. Surrender. We all, both male and females, we all accept love on different terms, and a lot of times when you see or meet an adult who is very apprehensive in showing attention, when you get to know that individual on a more intimate level, they might then trust you enough to share with you the kind of abusive situations they've been through around that, all touching and personal stuff that they just don't want to deal with that at all. So we have to be a little understanding and be patient in showing love how you are accustomed to showing love. Instead, maybe take a step back and try to understand how they prefer to express that love, and see how you can meet that person halfway and engage in the love conversation, right? So at this point, I am going to close out because we are well past over time. And I have to say, this definitely has been a wonderful meeting. And I enjoyed the conversation immensely. Next week, we are going to focus more on communication and sex specifically. We're not going to sidestep the sexual factor because it plays into who we are now, and it also plays into the dynamics of how we are raising our family and the kind of communications we are able to have with our children. It is 2021. We are halfway through 2021, and we still have families, yes, Black families, who do not sit and have conversations about dating, sex, and relationship with their children. They get to a certain age and they might say something about the period or the menstruation, or they might get a book tossed at them, right? And if this wasn't Canada, many of our children would not know much about the human body because it's not discussed at home, right? Parents feel that, well, you have more knowledge, they're not teach you enough, I don't have to talk to you about that kind of thing. So there's a lot. Our young people go through a lot, right? We ask them to trust us and to trust our belief system, but it is not our belief system responsibility, nor is it really the school board's responsibility to be teaching our children how to go about life in relations to building relationship, trust, and how to approach their sexuality and when to begin having sex and all that kind of stuff. These conversations are things that we as a community should be doing for ourselves, just like other communities do for themselves. So that said, I will see you all next week. Thank you very much. Shalom. Have a blessed night.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Blessed.
Night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we stay in touch.
All right.